The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Welcome back to the Bliss Business Podcast series, Scaling with Purpose. These are our short 10 to 15 minute podcast episodes where we explore how to embed purpose into every level of your organization. I'm Steven Sakach here again with Tullio, Siragusa, and Maher. Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hello.
So today's episode is about one of the most powerful outcomes of leading with purpose. This is one I often think of when we discuss this. It's building a community around your purpose. How do you attract and nurture a group of customers, partners, and advocates who don't just buy what you sell, but they believe in why you exist? Let's get into it.
Thanks, Steven. So when you're
Ash, it looks like you added a guest to our show. What's the name of that character behind you?
That is Dead Mouse behind me, signed by Dead Mouse. Yes.
Okay, there we go.
I got invited someone to a show. I'm like, wait, who's sneaking in here? No, appreciate you, Steven. So when your organization has a clear and compelling purpose, it naturally becomes a magnet for like-minded people. So customers want to support brands that reflect their values. Employees want to work for companies that stand for something meaningful. And partners want to align with organizations that make them proud. That's the power of purpose. It doesn't just sell, it gathers people around you.
Exactly. And you know what? We've seen this over and over again, and you can just check in with your own self. It's always true. You know, when people feel like they belong to something bigger than themselves, something bigger than this is a transaction, they become emotionally invested. So when customers become advocates, employees become culture carriers, and vendors become mission partners, that's when you really are becoming very purposeful. And that's when the purpose becomes foundation for living and breeding community.
Yeah, and that community is really one of your greatest assets, right? It's what gives your brand resilience during hard times and that momentum during growth. So the real question here for today's show is, how do you intentionally build a community that's fueled by your purpose? So let's kind of break it down. There's three strategies I want to cover here to build a purpose-led community. So the first one is really to lead with transparency and invite participation. People don't want to rally, they don't rally around perfection. They rally around your authenticity. I mean, this is what it's all about. It's your authenticity. And you want to share your mission, your goals, and even your challenges openly, and let your community be part of that journey, not just the recipient of your products. You can build trust when you say, hey, here's what we stand for, here's where we're headed, and here's how you can help us get there. It may not always be a clean process, but they'll be there with you in the ups and downs.
Steve, a company that's really good at this was Allbirds. Their literal purpose was create better things in a better way. So knowing that was like their mantra, everything that they did in terms of what they put out on social media, their content was literally the materials that they source, the carbon footprint that they're decreasing, the different types of ways that they put things together. I mean, they're bringing their audience, their community to the whole process and showing them, hey, this is why we create better things, is that we go after the better products. This is the experience that we go through. So it brings them into that journey. And to your point, not everything's perfect, which I think is great content, right? Because people don't understand that with all businesses, there's challenges along the way. And when the community is a part of that, they're like, hey, you guys are working towards something good. They support that vision.
Yeah. And, that's really the beginning, that transparency, bringing people into that process. That's how you create a community forged on shared experiences. You host events, you both virtually or in person, and gives an opportunity for the community to connect over a shared purpose, and that could be, aligning the purpose for volunteer days or educational sessions, storytelling campaigns, or overall brand experiences that go deeper deeper than just a product pitch. You want to make people part of your story and also even co-contributors to your story. That's the end goal on how you create great community.
And just remember, the community isn't just about you. Okay, it's not about you. It's about creating a space for your customers, your partners, and employees to share their stories of how your purpose has impacted them. So when you're adding that storytelling, it deepens the emotional bond and shows your purpose in action.
So we've got that first strategy: lead with transparency and invite participation. Second one we're just talking about here is that create that shared experiences around purpose. And then really this third thing to focus on is empower your community to be your voice. So when you lead with purpose, your community wants to talk about it. Give them the tools and the permission to spread the words. Create shareable content tied to your mission, highlight community members and partners who are living the purpose, and then celebrate those purpose-driven wins together, yours and theirs.
A great example of this is REI. Their opt-outside campaign, it wasn't just marketing. It was a bold, values-driven stand. At the time, no other large retailer had even thought about ever shutting its doors on both Thanksgiving or Black Friday. And the response was incredible. More than 1.4 million people in 170 outdoor companies, nonprofits, and organizations chose to follow suit, shutting their doors and spending that Black Fridays outdoors. And it didn't stop there. In 2016, the hashtag opt-outside quadrupled. By 2022, REI took an even further. They announced that they would close all of their stores on Black Friday permanently and pay its more than 15,000 employees to enjoy time outside. Now, that's purpose in action. They're an outside living company, right? So what better way to promote being outside than doing something like this? And what made this so powerful was that they invited the entire community to live that purpose together, not just the customer, but the employees. And people posted and shared and created their own meaning around it. It became like a movement. And that's purpose-powered word of mouth. And it's really priceless when you create something like that.
Yeah, and I like that we've got the kind of stats there, Tullio, because that's really, you can measure kind of the health of your community, your movement, not just by how much they buy, but how much they engage in these kind of things. Like you say, you've had, those numbers of, 15,000 employees, taking that day off, no longer in there. These are just different things you can measure. So you want to look at various things like the community participation in your initiatives, referral rates and organic brand mentions. You can look at the user-generated content. And they're sharing, how much they're sharing all this stuff, with the hashtag numbers there, that I think you said quadrupled. And then you could look into, if you've got purpose-driven campaigns, you can look into the repeat purchases tied to those. So there's a lot of ways you can kind of measure this community in action.
Yeah, and a very simple rule of thumb: when people share your mission and you don't have to ask them to do it, you're doing the right thing. That's how you're doing this right. So, when people want to tell a story because it's now part of their own, right? They want to tell your story. You've built something more than a customer base. You've built a literal movement. And I think that's very, very powerful.
And it's so strategic in the future as things become a lot more AI-driven, digitized. Community is going to mean so much more. It's going to be the lifeblood of an organization. So this is a great example to learn from. There are others, but you really embracing building community around a purpose is going to be key to the future success of very AI-driven type companies.
Yep. So to recap, building community around your purpose means leading with transparency, inviting people to the journey, creating the shared experience that make the mission feel real and alive, and empowering people to amplify your message because it matters to them to do that. So purpose unites people, right? This is when you can create that space for that unity to grow. You're not just scaling a company, you're scaling connection, you're scaling impact, you're scaling belonging. This is what's important. So in our next episode, we're going to explore the challenges of staying purposeful at scale. how to maintain your purpose as your organization grows, and strategies to prevent it from being diluted over time. And don't forget to subscribe and share the podcast with others on their purpose-driven journey.